Welcome, listener, to the fantastic and insightful Long-Winded One podcast. In this installment, you will be treated to a one-of-a-kind glimpse into... Snack?
Yes, Master.
Why are we doing this again?
Because we were asked, Master.
Except that asking is free, and I don't work for free.
Yeah, I am aware, Master. That is why I already secured our compensation.
That right. Because I don't see any gold, jewels, or anything even remotely shiny on you.
We will receive our payment in the form of exposure, Master.
What? Like when you flash your breasts to seduce the meat?
Not quite. Exposure is a form of advertisement. The client will spread our names so we receive more customers, thus increasing profits.
That sounds stupid.
I suspected it would, Master. It's a human concept, something a mimic like yourself would struggle to grasp.
No, I get it. It's just stupid. Here, I'll prove it. Arms? Arms, get your elbows in here!
Holy shit, boss! You wouldn't believe the size of that one guy's forehead. It was like a 5-head. Like, I'd need all 4 hands to crush it, and even then...
Don't care. Need your opinion on something.
Really? Okay.
You heard about this exposure stuff?
You mean the Slutmeister flashing her tits, or the other thing?
The other thing. Think it's worth more than gold?
Oh, absolutely! Like, it's not even close. You can't buy good rep, you know.
I see. That'll be all. You can go back to doing whatever it was.
Wait, what the fuck was I doing?
Something about a big forehead guy you wanted to smash?
Oh, right! Thanks, boss!
See? If Arms thinks it's a good deal, then it absolutely isn't.
You've made your point. I'll go see if I can negotiate some actual money.
You go do that. I've got a call. Hey, Carl.
Hey, buddy! Long time no mind chat. You got a minute?
I guess. What's up?
Well, I've just been informed that whatever you're doing over there with Zira and Cora might constitute a potential violation of your summoning contract with Demons or Us.
Ooh, wait. Really? What part?
The Extra Planner Non-Compete. Section 3A, 5th paragraph.
Huh? How's a stupid podcast intro violate that?
You'd know better than me. I'm just passing on what the big guy upstairs told me.
What's Bob got to do with this?
No clue. I'm just the middleman. You got a problem with Hubert, you'd best take it up with him directly.
And how am I supposed to do that when Jennifer won't show her stupid kennel?
Sounds like a you problem, buddy. Anyway, my job's done, so you take care now.
Ugh. Typical. Guess I'll just go eat a hobo and call it a day. What even is a podcast anyway? Something tasty? Probably not, knowing my luck.
Welcome to Season 5 of the Long-Winded One podcast. Listen as we showcase original work from top Royal Road authors read by professional voice actors. Hear interviews from your favorite Litrpg and game lit authors. Lastly, listen as the Long-Winded One tries his hand at his first ever Litrpg novel, The Four Treasures.
Welcome everybody to another episode of The Long-Winded One. With me today, I am honored to have Neven Iliev and Jeff Hayes. Welcome to the podcast, you guys.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Great. Well, I mentioned this before we started recording, but just for the listener, I want to let them know that I'm kind of going through these interviews in the way that I discovered Litrpg and Game Lit. And after Robert Bevan and Jonathan Sleep, I made my way to Everyone Loves Large Chests. And Neven is the author of that book, and Jeff is the narrator. So if you could, and maybe we'll start with Neven, just introduce yourself, where you're from, how did you come to be sitting here on this podcast?
Yes, hello. I'm Neven. I'm from Bulgaria, and I got into writing mostly as a way to slack off during work. Believe it or not, a huge chunk of the first few volumes were originally written, on the company's dime. Eventually, I just kind of realized, why am I showing up to work if I'm just gonna write? And I end up making more money than my paycheck ever is. So then I just, I wouldn't say I went full time. It's more like I just stopped showing up to work. And little else has changed in my schedule since. And a bunch of years later, here I am.
Well, Neven, I am curious. Can you tell us like what industry you worked in originally?
I am a back end, or was rather a back end software developer. I just worked on uh, a website that handled like sports betting stuff.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, what about you?
Yeah, started voice acting when I lost my regular maintenance job doing taking care of my parents' apartments. When they decided to sell the business, I had been they've been kind of grooming me to take over the business, but it never really got to that stage, and they just got kind of fed up with it, and they sold it all. So I didn't have a job anymore, and not very much in the bank. And I didn't want to get another real job, so I just started scouring the internet for odd jobs here and there. I was doing whatever I could find to make money, and I stumbled upon voice acting, and because I'm a musician, I'd actually dropped out of college. I was going to the UMKC Conservatory for Music, and I dropped out because I wasn't trying very hard and still doing really well in grades. And I think that had to do more with me being an upright bass player and them needing upright bass players. But like, I just didn't feel good about myself there. And I just wanted to make music. I just wanted to compose and have my own band. And so I dropped out, and I'd, I'd been playing in a band and composing music for a while, but as most people will tell you, it's really hard to make money in music. It's really hard to get noticed when you're kind of like me, sort of a snobby artiste type when it comes to music, and I we just weren't making music that people specifically wanted to listen to aside from other musicians.
Do you mind if I ask what genre?
Yeah, I guess it would be prudent to call it jazz fusion, maybe. I always tried to avoid genre, but I took influence from every genre I could, just to I don't know, try and synthesize something new. But it was just nothing. It was hard to get gigs. It was just impossible to really make a career out of it from where I was. So I kind of threw my hands up in the air and kind of put that down for a while just to get money so I could get the band started back up. So I eventually found voice acting through voices.com. I was doing a lot of odd jobs through there, in art installations, web commercials, really boring stuff. But I found myself auditioning a whole lot more. Like, I was probably landing one or two jobs per 100 auditions I was doing, and that would be like a week's pay every week, and I was just skating by. I was just barely making it, until I found audiobooks. So my first audiobook job paid really well per finished hour. It was through a company called Pearson Education, and they make curriculums for schools. And Freak the Mighty by Rodman Philbrick was my first audiobook, and man, I had so much fun with it. It was pretty short, maybe 4 hours long, and the characters were very diverse. There were so many different types of characters, and while I was auditioning for jobs, and maybe why I wasn't landing as many jobs as I maybe could have at voices.com, when I was doing all my auditioning, I was auditioning for fucking everything. Not like what would I wasn't looking for what I might do well. I was just just trying it all constantly. And so that's kind of how I always approached voice acting from then on. And I suppose that's just sort of how I approach anything when it comes to craft, is like I want to be able to be versatile and eclectic and be able to fit in however I need to and take whatever role is available. So, being able to do that and tell a whole story that way and be the whole cast and be the casting director and be the director and the narrator, and it was just so creatively fulfilling for me. So I just kept looking for more audiobook jobs. I eventually found ACX, and I eventually found royalty share through ACX. ACX is a subsidiary of Audible that, independent narrators and authors can come together and make audiobooks. I eventually found the royalty share stuff, and when you first start off doing that, you're making zero money. But I saw the potential. I saw that what I was really doing at that point was, instead of working for a paycheck, I was working for an asset. And so my philosophy was always, okay, well, if this is an asset and I have some kind of ownership over it, then I'll put everything I can into the creation of it in order to make it as valuable an asset as possible. And to one day have people searching my name on Audible rather than authors. And that's what happened.
I'm just curious, have you had anybody who listened to you as a kid, Freak the Mighty, and say, hey, I discovered you on Audible? And
I would love to encounter someone who had that experience. I don't even know. I wonder if I would even be credited, or if, a kid listening to that audiobook would even think to look at the name. And considering that, it was my first audiobook and everyone sucks at everything when they first start off with it, it's probably, I would probably cringe listening to it now, but you never know. Like, I guess I started off with a little extra momentum, just maybe because of my approach, and because I approached it like I approached music.
all right, let's go to the next question. And this one's for Neven. But again, Jeff, feel free to chime in here if you want. So we're in season 5 here of the podcast. And obviously the focus is on Litrpg. And I'm interviewing a lot of folks who have not gotten publishing deals, who have not, put out an audiobook yet. But I notice a lot of folks write under a pseudonym. And so the question of the importance of anonymity now on the internet has entered my mind, and I'm wondering, why is it so important now?
Sure. I think in a general sense, there's two benefits or two main reasons to use a pseudonym or try to be anonymous. The first one, obviously, privacy concern. You don't want random people like latching onto the stuff you make and then looking you up, stalking you. I don't really know how common that is, like, but just the fact that it can happen. I mean, frankly, I'm surprised people just carelessly share all kinds of crap on social media, because holy shit, some of the stuff they'll post, like, this is stuff you should tell your therapist. For me, I don't really use social media like at all. I don't have a presence. I mean, I basically just have a Facebook page that just once every few weeks I'll hop on, see if there's anything interesting, maybe advertise my stuff a little, and then that's it, right? So even if someone were to try to, trace me or track me, A, good luck coming to the Balkans, and B, yeah, good luck finding anything. So I'm not particularly worried about that. But for me, there is also just in general, I'm a pretty private person, in person at least. I'm quite shy, and I greatly dislike the idea of strangers looking into my stuff, which is why I don't have a social media presence. I don't like getting my picture taken, or God forbid, uploaded. Any of that. Just let me sit in my dark corner, do my thing. The other main thing, aside from privacy reasons, it's kind of the opposite. Is when people know you personally, right? And they're here, oh, you're writing a book. And then they ask the question, what's it about? and then you have to answer that. And perhaps you're not really comfortable answering that in polite company, because let's face it, right? A lot of fiction out there has some pretty fucked up shit in it, and you know some people can't really separate the fiction from the creator. If you know what I mean? It's like, say for example, you write about slavery. That means you're pro-slavery. It's like, what? How do you come to this conclusion exactly? I mean, sometimes that is the case, but more often than not, people just need to be able to separate reality from fiction a bit better. So yeah, that's the second thing is avoiding that awkwardness of just having to explain the messed up shit you're putting online to people who know you in real life.
Does anyone in your real personal life know that you write?
They do, yes. But thankfully, the people that matter most to me, they're really not good at English. So I just get away with, it's just some video game fantasy stuff. You wouldn't like it anyway.
It's funny, when I was a musician, I used to go by Jeff Benjamin, which is my middle name, and I always thought, it's Jeff Hayes is such a bland name, I guess. Kind of basic sounding, like that I was kind of looking for a name that might catch more attention, especially in music that's a little more important maybe. But I don't know why I just didn't bother when it came to narration, and looking back, maybe it would have been a good idea for me to have a pseudonym, but it's too late now. I do worry about some of the privacy things, especially considering the last couple years my profile and Soundbooth Theater's profile has been growing exponentially. And I'm meeting a lot of people at cons. I'm meeting a lot of fans at cons and stuff, and that's really fun and gratifying. And I like to shake hands with the people that are making my life possible. The people that buy our audiobooks. It's pretty amazing how many of them are out there and how they're all using these audiobooks to get through their day to day to do like actually important things. I'm an entertainer, and I've always thought of myself as an entertainer from the get go. When I first started this career, weirdly enough, I didn't consider myself an entertainer when I was a musician, and maybe I would have been more successful had I had that attitude. But with that high profile, yeah, it does get a little scary, because sometimes, yeah, you meet somebody who really likes your stuff, and they really like your stuff, and they're looking at you funny, and it's like, okay, so we've been here for 10 minutes. There's another person in line. Go ahead and get moving. And like like when you know that those people know your actual name, yeah, I think it's probably unwise, but also I feel it's kind of essential to who I am and to being accessible as an entertainer. I think that's really important. So it's a trade-off, it's like I'm trading in some safety for just being more available to the people that I entertain.
You definitely, both of you have touched people. I mean that in the not an inappropriate way. So we're gonna do a little skit here where it's kind of like mean tweets, but I want to start off before we start reading these not so nice reviews. I want to just say that Everyone Loves Large Chess has 4.5 stars on Audible. So Mason on Audible, this is well written with some of the most memorable characters I can think of. As a narrator, Jeff Hayes knocks this out of the park. This is easily one of my favorite discoveries on Audible. Jim from Audible says, a worthwhile purchase if you enjoy fantasy literature and role-playing games. Neven Iliev has constructed a world that I want to play a character in. John on Audible, there's smart, thought-provoking, imagination, tantalizing ideas and concepts, also boobs, and a surprising amount of risque content, all woven together expertly by an author in a perfectly meshed mix of horror, lewdness, and intelligent writing that is so rare in literature. And I actually have a few more. I could go on and on. I've sent you all some of these funny bad reviews, and I thought if you wanted to read them and maybe respond to a few of them. Neven, would you like to go first?
Sure. There is this one that I found pretty interesting. So Packrat on Audible says, I feel less intelligence for having read this. To which I say, well, I feel less intelligent after I wrote it, so we're even.
Oh, that's great. Some of these are really funny. I have to read one. I'm sorry if I take yours, Jeff, but I'm going to read the very first one that I sent you, which was from Terry on Google. And I don't know if maybe Google pulled this off of Goodreads or Audible, but it says, "This book is truly awful. It's nothing like it's described. It's basically a living wooden box getting points like in a video game." And all I can think is like, well, did you read the description? Do you have any idea what genre you're getting into?
Well, to be fair, the description is like
The description, the first book description is in fact intentionally misleading.
yeah.
The description, okay, so the first volume, the name, the description, the cover, it's all bait. It's literally all bait. Like, if you think about it, if you look at it, it's just bait, right? And even back when it was on Royal Road, I constantly got people saying, I fell for the trap.
The thirst trap.
Yeah, the thirst trap. This person also fell for it. He just doesn't want to admit it.
Yeah, that's what I really love about this series. Actually, this review is a perfect demonstration of people getting lured in, and that's what a mimic is, right? That everything's very very meta and very interwoven, and even the writing style, to me, like there's so many times when Neven leads us on a path, and we think we're going somewhere, and then no, everyone just gets eaten.
Yeah, you think you're going to McDonald's, but you end up at the glue factory.
Can I ask actually about the whole thirst trap thing? So I felt like, and it's been so long ago since I read the first book, or listened to the first book rather, that I feel like the book changed a little bit as you were writing it, right? Like maybe it was a little thirst trappy in the beginning, and then it became something, something else entirely. Did it change in your mind when you were writing it, Neven?
No, that the change is very much real and is very much intentional. Basically, when I first started writing it, it was a lot thirstier at the start, but people just said, okay, cut the, cut the amateur smut, just give us the story. And like, okay. So I basically, dialed back the lewd stuff just because people, they came for the chest, they stayed for the story. What can I say?
Yeah. So you listened to. So this was a comment on Royal
This
Road.
was
I'm guessing.
as I was writing it, page by page, chapter by chapter on Royal Road. People left comments, and I was like, I mean, okay, sure. The version that made it to Kindle and Audible is in fact dialed back a bit on that aspect. I didn't just cut content. I tried to replace it or add new stuff onto it, so people don't feel like they're cheated. Because obviously it's Audible's that's just slightly bigger, wider market. I didn't want to go for mass appeal, but it felt like it warranted to go a little bit wider, a little bit safer.
So Jeff, do you have? Did you find a comment that you want to read?
Yeah, this one. Okay, so this one's not. I don't think this one's actually negative. I think this is more defending the series. Micha on Goodreads says, "The women that read this book and are like, I love big boobs, and I like to call out other women when they have them in front of me, teehee, and then are like, I can't believe how sexist this book is. I dislike more than the book, to be honest." So yeah, I totally agree with Micha on this one. I see a lot of this sexist stuff, sexist accusations of the story. And I mean, yeah, we get to see boobs and there's crazy shit that happens to women, but most of it is, if you are only focusing on the women, you're not paying attention to all the horrible things that happen to the men. In the book, Boxy is indiscriminate about how murderous and depraved he is. So, that's it's one-sided, and it's funny how people have that mentality.
When you read that review, all I could hear was Zira's voice. Like I was like, "Oh my gosh, Zira, you're on Goodreads. That's awesome." Well, Neven, you guys want to each pick one more and read one more?
Yeah, there is one more. Ran on Goodreads says, if the author didn't have such a massive degeneracy issue, this would be pretty good. And to that I say, I apologize. This is what 20 years of internet brain rot will do to you.
You're being very nice in these responses. I think maybe I would respond differently.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with the truth. I am, in fact, the degenerate. Why you think I don't tell anyone in real life what I actually write in these?
And also, like, without the degeneracy, what would this series be?
It will be almond milk. Something that's lying about being milk.
Right.
All right. So, Jeff, you got one more?
Yes. This is a really simple one. Roberto on Goodreads. I don't like that the main character is a flesh-eating inhuman monster. Well, I do. I mean, like, what? I mean, what did they just want, the standard sword and sorcery stuff? Because what are you even picking up a book that's called Morningwood for? I don't understand what people are expecting aside from degeneracy when they pick up a book called Morningwood. Everybody loves large chests.
Just to be clear, I'm expecting a little more degeneracy here in the up and coming books, guys.
There's some coming. Yeah.
I'm just gonna add on to that. Honestly, not liking that the main character is a flesh-eating inhuman master. I would dare say that's probably the accurate, well-adjusted response. You're not supposed to like it, but people do, which I take that as a personal win. That people somehow like this absolute abomination.
Yeah, I mean, he is the epitome of an anti-hero, really. All right, Jeff, I'm going to move us along here to the next question here. Could you tell us, and this goes all the way back to the Periscope days, I believe. Could you tell us how you came to read Everyone Loves Large Chests?
Yeah. So when Twitter came out with Periscope, and I don't even really know why I chose Periscope other than I happened to see it. I had maybe had the Twitter account for a year or two, never really used it. Twitter's never really been my thing, but it was like a really easy, accessible way to stream. And I'd noticed, or I guess I didn't notice, that any other narrators were streaming their stuff. And audiobook narration is a relatively lonely profession, especially when not only are you always in the booth recording, but when you're not doing that, and at the time I was doing all my own editing, all my own proofing, all my own mastering and all that. So an audiobook job was not just narrating, it was doing all that production stuff and hustling to get more work. So it's really lonely, and like actually doing sales, like contacting authors, auditioning, doing that business stuff, it's not the same thing as, talking to an audience or just talking to people who you don't really have much of a motivation with. And also, as a musician, I missed live performing. So I just started my show, Soundbooth Theater Live. I don't know where the name came from. It just kind of stuck when I thought of it. And so I just started taking requests from people. And Everybody Loves Large Chests was by far the most requested thing. And people would just they would choose all new different scenes, and basically what they wanted was for me to say the most horrific things I possibly could live, and that totally worked on me. I love saying terrible things, so I couldn't get enough. Every time I saw that in my requests, I did a fist pump. I was so excited to read it. But it was I didn't really understand how popular the series actually was on Royal Road. I didn't really realize how popular Royal Road was as a website. And when Neven finally published his first book, I was like, okay, we have to do this, man. Like we've already set it up to where all these people have been listening to me narrate your stuff.
So you reached out to him, or was he already in your streams?
I can't remember. Neven, did you show up in streams before I actually started narrating your stuff?
Yeah, I think if I remember right, some people on my Discord just poked me occasionally whenever you were narrating my stuff and I was available, so I did hop in a few times.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I think like one of the reasons I even bothered publishing it, because I wasn't going to originally, right? It was just supposed to be a hobby. The only reason I even bothered publishing it, or I should say self-publishing it to be specific, was because I wanted to actually hear it as in audio format.
I'm gonna push us on here to the next question. Neven, the Everyone Loves Large Chess series is one of the I think one of your largest and most popular series to date. Could you please give us like an overview of what the series is about?
Yeah. So it is a Litrpg or game lit or whatever you want to call it. It primarily, dare I say, even entirely focuses on a mimic. This being your classic D&D inspired monster. It's literally just a chest, like a treasure chest, a wooden box that eats people. That's how it starts. It starts as being just incredibly stupid, incredibly vicious, and just has a hint of some natural cunning and some pretty strong instincts. And from there, it just gradually escalates. It becomes less stupid. It becomes more cunning. It becomes even more vicious. It's just it starts as a monster. It becomes even more of a monster, and it accumulates a following of minions and allies and other monsters. And it's one of those things where it's not like, oh, it's it's not some guy it's reincarnated, it's not transposed. No, this is all happening as someone is a native to the world, with levels and skills and all that stuff. He's native to the world, grows up in it. It's all he's ever known, and it's just goes way out of hand, and it never gained. The only shred, right? This is kind of a big theme in the book is monsters will be monsters, right? It's biologically completely different from regular people, and it will learn about empathy. It will learn about morals, and then it will abuse that knowledge to manipulate people.
Yeah, I was gonna say it learns about it, but it still acts like a monster. It just learns what not to do.
Yeah, it is primarily focused on humor. There's some action, there's some loot stuff, a little bit of horror, a little bit of exploration, but I think I dare say the draw is primarily the humor, and it is, at least I like to think, a very character focused story where it's like, oh sure, you got this whole world and there's all this stuff and there's all these people and there's factions, kingdoms, and all that stuff, but we don't care about that. We just want to see what the funny box will do next.
Well, I'm going to ask Jeff his next question here. I'm wondering, so I remember hearing once, I think this was on Soundbooth Theater Live, that you said that Everyone Loves Large Chess was the thing that really launched Soundbooth Theater into the next, stratosphere and allowed you to sort of go on to do other things.
Yeah, well, I would say that it's the series that gave me the capital in the first place to start branching out into more production and to support other narrators. And it's just because the series kept building in popularity as we kept going, and because I think that branding wise for us, the characters that Neven has made and that I subsequently brought into the vocal sphere really helped to identify us, Soundbooth Theater. Really vibrant, recognizable characters are essential to any kind of publishing brand, and so it grounds you. It keeps you. It anchors you in people's minds, and they make that quick association. And I think because Everybody Loves Large Chests is such a riot when it comes to humor, then what you're getting here is the most positive association, positive and long-lasting association you might be able to get from entertainment. People are laughing their asses off with you and your characters, and that sticks in their minds, and they want to keep hanging out. They want to keep hanging out with the characters and find out what happens next. And so they think of us, they think of the good time they had. So yeah, definitely Everybody Loves Large Chess has been a major sticking point for people, and really gave us stable ground to work from. I would say Life Reset also did that for us to maybe Life Reset sold better out the gate than Everybody Loves Large Chests, but Everybody Loves Large Chests has more staying power and had a greater effect on each individual listener, whereas Life Reset just had a wider appeal. And so, yeah, I mean, because of that continued success and because we felt inspired to, do more and more production when it came to every new volume of the series, and started introducing, more and more of the Soundbooth Theater cast throughout, I think it's become a staple. It's become one of our big flagship titles that everyone knows us for.
I think I saw a tweet somewhere that said that you're currently taking up the top 4 spots in humorous fantasy on Audible. Is that do you want to plug any of those books?
Yeah, sure. So that was a few weeks ago, I believe. Yeah, we had the top 4. I'm bummed that ELLC wasn't up there. It was just not, it's just not during a release cycle of ELLC, or else we would have been. Every time we release a new Everybody Loves Large Chests, it shoots to the top of that chart. But at the time, we had books, I believe 5 and 6 of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and we had Chrysalis by Rhino Z, and Mimic and Me, which is actually Mimic and Me is written by an author who was a huge fan of Everybody Loves Large Chests, but he took a different take on it, where it's more like Venom, where the mimic possesses a guy and becomes a symbiote with him, and the mimic is a completely different personality from Boxy. It's more of like it's still hungry, but it's more kind of happy-go-lucky and more of a goofball. Boxy is completely dead-ass serious all the time. He is all business. Tasties, shinies, all that matters. He's not really a trickster in any way that's other than as a means to an end, right? He sets traps, but it's not practical jokes. He's after something. Mimic and Me, I didn't narrate. I just played the mimic. Ryan Reed, who's our new big, like, he's gonna be big eventually. Ryan Reed is just a phenomenal narrator, very driven and passionate, and really great at what he does. He's the narrator of that one, and that one's by Cassius Lang and Ryan Tang. Yeah, so that's been doing really well. We're about to release book 2 of that very soon. I think it may be already up for pre-order. And then the other series was Chrysalis, which is by Rhino Z. This is an audio series that we're publishing in partnership with Athon Books. And Rhino Z writes on Royal Road as well. That's where Athon found him, and Chrysalis has been a steadily growing and more popular Litrpg, and it's also a monster Litrpg. Basically, it's a dude reincarnated as a giant ant monster, and but he's thrilled about it. And he's so happy to to discover more ant powers, and to he apparently had a very sad life that I haven't, hasn't been completely fleshed out in the story so far, even through book 5. He's kind of keeping a little bit of that as a mystery, but he loves ants. He loves the whole concept of being a part of a giant family, and his progression is, I would say, almost the opposite of Boxy's, where he's doing his best to fit in with the rest of the world, but the rest of the world sees him as a monster, and he's trying to navigate that. It's an incredibly fun series. I actually modeled the narrator's voice from one of Neven's characters, Joe, from The Stars Have Eyes. And yeah, I narrate the whole time with him, and he's just so bubbly and optimistic and full of energy. So it's a very different feel from almost anything I've ever narrated before. And yeah, it's just a great adventure. We actually won an award for best humorous performance in an audiobook. We were nominated with Mel Brooks for his autobiography, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, well, it's nice to be nominated next to Mel Brooks, who's 100% going to win this. And then we ended up winning, so it was pretty great, and I'm so happy to have that series as well. I think Monster MC is kind of my real bag here.
You guys mentioned Jeff. I think you mentioned The Stars Have Eyes. Let's talk about that. So I remember hearing, Neven, that both ELLC, Everyone Loves Large Chests, and The Stars Have Eyes were both influenced from memes. Can you share what those memes are? And if you want to talk about The Stars Have Eyes, this is a great place to do that.
Sure. Well, to start with, for large chests, it's actually a pretty it's old. You could call it a classic or maybe a vintage meme. It's pretty widespread, right? It's been replied 1,000 times. It's basically an image of your classic, mimic, with chest with teeth being like rar, and it has the text. The barkeeper asked why we carried weapons on us in the bar. I said mimics. The barkeeper laughed. The party laughed. The table laughed. We killed the table. It was a good time, right? So that's kind of where it started, and then I just started, talking with some friends online. It's kind of spitballing ideas, coming up with all these stupid, chest puns, and it just kind of grew on me like a tumor. But yeah, that's basically where it started. As for the Stars Have Eyes, that one's more obscure. About 100 years ago, in 2016, there's a very little known trend on certain corners of the internet called the ideal girlfriend, where they basically just took a stick figure of a girl, just basically a triangle for a dress, a circle for a head, and then they slapped the personality on it with some random imaginary quotes of what they would say or do, and one of those is a shadow spawns from beyond the stars, GF. With basically echoing some things that are both sweet and also kind of terrifying. Like the last star will wink out before our love fades, or I'm in every shadow protecting you. It's kind of stuff that you could kind of take, and it's just like I think this is around the time where the series concluded on Royal Road, the large chest, I mean, and then I was just looking for something completely different, right? Something entirely different, entirely fresh. So I went from Litrpg, fantasy, monsters, all that stuff. I just completely threw that in the garbage, and I just went with a sci-fi space operation rom-com, basically. It has some similarities, right? One of the main characters is very much not human. It is also technically a shapeshifter, but it's more it's just a slice of life. It's just a nice little slice of life. It's nothing, there's nothing really controversial about it, I would say.
It's a sweet series. I listened to it, the whole thing, on the Soundbooth Theater app. Jeff, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. So one thing about that series is, for me, it was completely unexpected. I was just curious, and I just started reading it off of Neven's Royal Road, and I was expecting something crazy, off the wall, ultra violent. I expected to be grossed out, and for it to be another kind of horrific comedy, but it turned out to be incredibly human and sweet, and really, really well written, and very, very human, and it was touching. It really was. And I was so taken with it that I just decided I had to make it. So I contacted Neven about it, made sure it was cool with him. And considering, we had our new platform that had just launched, I figured, okay, this is going to be a good thing for us to try and use as promotion for it.
Was this on the new app?
This was on the first app that we had. So we started our platform about 3.5 years ago, and the app was atrocious. The first one, the second one's not that much better, but it's at least usable. We're rebooting, and we're gonna have an excellent app in about 3 or 4 months. But the story itself, I ended up liking it even more than Everybody Loves Large Chests. As much as a rollicking good time ELLC is, it doesn't have as much heart as The Stars Have Eyes, and I didn't like the characters in the same way that I liked the ELLC characters. The ELLC characters were fun to watch and point and laugh at, and Joe and Maggie were like, I felt like they were friends. And another thing, Neven is just a really strong character writer, and the way he was able to make a wholesome story out of this concept was, in my opinion, just incredibly deft. Like, I just I was blown away by this series, so I wanted to do justice to it. I wanted to really capture the things that the series made me feel as I was writing it or reading it. And I think another thing about it was making all the music for it, creating that mood and kind of paying homage to British culture in that way. If you guys listen to it, you will pick up on, well, hopefully you will pick up on all the different songs that we used. Practically everything is something you've heard before, just produced in a different way. Yeah, it's one of my favorite projects we've done. And yeah, I hope you guys will go check it out at soundbooththeater.com. The first episode's free. The first episode is by far the most violent, and then it's all just a wonderful date. Really proud of it, and really, really happy that Neven allowed us to do it.
When you collaborate on series like these two series, how much time do you, other than the Soundbooth Theater live, like open recording sessions that you do on YouTube, do you all sit down and plan together?
No, not really. Neven has just kind of like, all of my production stuff has just kind of crept up. Like the first Everybody Loves Large Chests was mainly just me doing voices with the occasional sound effect here and there. So, at that point, Neven and I didn't plan any of that. And as each book came along, as we started producing more and more, it just kind of happened, and I never really consulted Neven about it. But anytime he listens to something that he doesn't like, we try to make changes. And lately, Neven's been a lot more involved in listening to our sound effects and stuff, because it's just such a in-depth production process now. That we take months to get through, and we have a team of people working on the sound effects. He'll come in now and listen live with everybody else at the same time, and we give notes and we make adjustments to make sure that it's fulfilling Neven's vision just a little bit more closely.
For the most part, I think other than consulting a few character voices here and there, like, how should this sound, who should be this, who you want to cast, this guy or that guy. Originally, we didn't communicate much at all, because I don't know jack shit about narration or sound design, right? Audio production, all that, absolutely divorced from my reality. So I trusted Jeff to do his thing. And like he said, it's not until production got a bit more elaborate, you got music, you got voice filters, you got all these sound effects, that it got more complicated. And I think from there, they could paint a slightly clearer picture, but that also meant that my mental image of what stuff should look and sound like kind of drifted apart, a bit more. So at that point, I asked to be more involved. And I will routinely say, don't take what I say as a gospel. This is just my feedback, right? This is how I imagine it to be. And for the most part, they accommodate as best they can, but obviously I will defer to the expert's judgment when it's reasonable. But yeah, it's basically a case of, at first, there wasn't much going on, so it didn't feel like there was a need for me to butt in, basically, right? Because I work with not just with Jeff, right? I also work with artists who does all with an artist who's done the majority of my illustrations, and I'm kind of conscious about butting in too much because I understand it can be a huge pain when you get a creative process and you have someone else telling you you're doing it wrong. So I try to be mindful of that. So for the most part, it's it was extremely hands off. Now it's just like one hand on.
Jeff, you mentioned that Soundbooth Theater has kind of grown, and you've mentioned a few names, I think, when we were talking both before and during this episode. A lot of these people, I think, are in the credits of Everyone Loves Large Chests, at least the more recent books. Could you tell us about who you work with on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So we have a lot of people working at my company now. The first person I ever hired, her name's Sin. She's our proofer. Or she was my proofer at first, and then until we developed the team some more, and then started coming narrators. Justin Thomas James, who's our COO now. I'm over at his house. Great narrator. He just released Dead Tired. I think it was beginning of this. No, it was end of December, and that's been blowing up. And it's by an author named Ravensdagger, another Royal Road author. We have Annie Ellicott, who has become basically 20% of the voices in Everybody Loves Large Chests. She plays Kira, who is Boxy's cat girl form, who does all the social heavy lifting to get Boxy more and more give Boxy more and more of an edge when it comes to just living day to day with people, so that he can get more stuff from them. She's also our primary female narrator, and she's an excellent jazz singer. She's like my favorite singer and composer. Well, she's not my favorite composer. She's my favorite singer, but she is also a composer. And she's a major part of our day to day. We have Ahmed Mahmoud, who's our lead engineer, who did the majority of the sound design for a lot of Everybody Loves Large Chests until recently. Richard Smith has kind of taken a lead role. And then we have Emily Labus, our chief marketing officer now. And we have Jacob Rakuya, who's our tech guy. And then we have Gary Furlong, another narrator, Will Watt, Ryan Reed. All of these people are doing voices in Everybody Loves Large Chests now, and it's just so fun. It's so fun to get everybody together to do all these insane characters and to play out all these ridiculous circumstances. Really, one of the things that motivated me to start this company in the first place and to start getting other narrators involved in my work was cross marketing, being able to put other people's names in the narrator slot on Audible, so that, okay, well, if people are searching my name to find this book, maybe one day these other narrators will get to a certain level of popularity that people will be searching their names, and guess what, this is going to show up when they do. So it's just taking the philosophy that I started with and expanding it out towards other people who I've been able to help their careers to a certain extent, give them paid work, and them being involved in Everybody Loves Large Chests for them is promotion. I think more than the business angle, though, Soundbooth Theater has been almost like putting together a really big band. I think that's really our dynamic more than anything else. Like we're a bunch of creatives that like to get together and do fun things and create fun things. And I think there's very few projects that demonstrate that better than Everybody Loves Large Chests. Oh, I cannot fail to mention Aaron J. Morton, our lead composer, who does practically all the music for Everybody Loves Large Chests, and he is absolutely incredible. He always gets his stuff in right before it's late, and it stresses everyone out, but when we get it, it's perfect.
Some of these people, I recognize their names. Were they involved in the spin-off book, Small Chests Are Fine Too?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dory Sachs is another person I should have mentioned, who as I've been getting older, my voice is changing, and Fizzy has been around since book 2, and she's Now, Neven, I don't know if this is why you did a spinoff of her. Like, was it because she's like a particularly popular character, or did you just like Fizzy?
It is very much a personal preference.
Okay. So Fizzy is a gnome, and then she becomes a golem through many trials and tribulations, mainly brought on by Boxy itself. Sorry, Boxy itself, and so being a gnome and being kind of a high strung character, I gave her this pretty high squeaky anime girl voice, and the older I get, the more difficult it is for me to pull that off. So about I think it was book 6 was maybe the last time I did her voice, and Neven had just released the Kindle version of Small Chests Are Fine Too, and we decided, yeah, we want to do the audio for it, but it didn't do well enough on Kindle for the audiobook for us to be confident that the audiobook was going to like do well on Audible. The algorithms are really tricky in that way, and so again, since we have this platform and since we'd already brought a lot of people over from the Stars Have Eyes, we decided to do Small Chests Are Fine Too on the platform as well, but we released it in 2 different formats. The standard audiobook format, which is still multicast, which still is Dory Sachs replacing me as Fizzy and doing the narration. And it was a little bit controversial at first. I put out feelers with the audience. I was like, hey, how would you guys feel if, we replaced Fizzy's voice? And, they were ready to murder me. But then I was confident in Dory. I thought that she was somebody that we had met a few years ago and who had a really interesting attitude and really fun personality and was doing well when it came to voice acting. She really wanted to do it and she was focused and driven. And this was her first audiobook narration. So we had her do a little sample and we tested it on the audience, and a good number of them really liked it. And so we had her do the entire series. She took over Fizzy's voice, and I'm really glad to say that Fizzy sounds better than ever. Like I think she's far surpassed my own performance as Fizzy. I think she gets the anger down better. I think she gets loud and she gets savage, and Dory's really good at leaning into that stuff.
Yeah, I just want to quickly add Corey's role as Fizzy. I personally I like it a lot, and I think a highlight for me. It doesn't happen often, but whenever I hear Fizzy scream "cunt," uh, it's always a highlight for me.
Dory's very good at yelling cunt.
Meatbag is the term that sticks with me.
I mean, meatbag. It's pretty generic. I got it. I lifted it off of Knights of the Old Republic, which is the Star Wars role playing game. Now there's a killer android who just calls everyone meatbags because he doesn't understand how meatbags can live with all that bulbous slushiness they have going on.
So if I could just move us on, this is my favorite part of any interview is when I ask you about your favorite parts and your favorite voices. So if maybe let's start with Jeff and then go to Neven. Could you tell us your favorite part in any of Neven's stories?
Yeah, I would have to say my favorite part of Neven's stories is probably the very ending of The Stars Have Eyes. I don't want to give spoilers for it because I know less people have listened to Stars Have Eyes than Everybody Loves Large Chests, and I want you guys to discover it. But what we did with it was very much collaborative between me and Annie. So Annie Ellicott plays the other main character, the cover main character of The Stars Have Eyes, the conceptual main character, Maggie, and it's a very emotional last 2 episodes. And I chose this King Crimson song for her to sing, for Annie to sing at the end of one of the episodes, and it's very effective. And then the music that we chose for the end of the last episode is, I would say, the song choice is kind of on the nose, but the execution is so wonderful and heartwarming. And yeah, I would say both of those episodes, I successfully made myself cry from listening to them. So, I really, when it comes to producing anything, being effective is what I'm most concerned with. Whether, whatever the goal is, whatever emotion it is I'm trying to pull out of the listener, efficacy is the thing that I'm most proud of, and I think that we nailed it with those. I'm not sure how Neven feels about those episodes, but yeah, that's got to be my favorite moment. It's such a beautiful story, and I feel like we tied it up so well. And of course, the writing is always what inspires those things. The writing is telling us what what we want the listener to be feeling. I just think it was so well executed from the page. Um, Doing it justice in audio was really gratifying.
What about you, Neven?
I'm not gonna pick out a favorite spot of my own story because I feel that's a bit weird. But when it comes to Jeff's performance in particular, again, that one's hard to pick out as well, just because there's a lot of good contenders. But in general, I am a huge fan of whenever Jeff has to make weird noises. Like I distinctly remember in Volume 2, for example, there's a scene where Boxy and Fizzy fight some monsters, right? And they're satyrs, goatmen, and he does a goat voice. It is ridiculously good. Like, you would not believe this was a person making it.
I've heard Jeff's use a goat voice a few times in different books, and that's some of my favorite.
Or, for example, another one, which is both, I love it and hate it in equal measures whenever he has to do like Boxy's eating sounds. It's very messy. It's very sloppy. It's and from what I heard, one of the editors like gets physically ill just because of how effective it is, as he says. It's great. It's silly, it's stupid, but it works, and I love it.
All right, let's go right into favorite voices, favorite character voices.
Zira used to be one of my favorite voices. My voice again has changed a bit, and it's hard for me to hit it correctly anymore. But like the earlier books, I just really enjoyed playing that character. Cora as well. Such a great contrast between those two characters. And I just love saying some of the lines that Cora says. Like, both of them just have such magnificently inappropriate things to say. And Cora, like, hit her dumb aggression and just kind of like, I like to think that you can hear the vacancy in her eyes when when she says things, when she says some of the blunt things that she says. So those two demonesses are probably who I have the most fun with.
This one's an easy pick for me. So, weird sound effects aside, I really like the way Jeff did Boxy, more specifically the Sandman version, where he's got that deep, smooth tone, like it's freaking Gaston from The Beauty and the Beast, and I that just sounds so on point. Compared to how I imagined it, you would not believe. It's like he read my mind. But yeah, but just his work on boxing in general, because there are a few points where it's speaks mimicanese, like to say, where it's still a box and it's trying to say things, but it doesn't have lips, so it comes out all weird.
Kadaha Assassin.
Yes, stuff like that, right? It's just I'm just frankly blown away he was able to pull it off.
Well, he has gotten more intelligible as the books have gone on, but I can imagine you had some fun with that in the very beginning too.
Oh man, I honestly, the first book is probably my favorite era of Boxy because of what Neven's saying, the mimicanese, the inability to really talk, and so it's more animalistic monster sounds. Yeah, that was definitely when I was having the most fun as Boxy.
Well, great guys. Well, tell us what are you currently working on? Neven, you want to go first?
Sure. Right now I am working on putting out volume 12 of Large Chests. It's going to be pretty substantial lengthwise. Right now, it's shaping up to be about 250,000 words, a quarter of a million. That's easily double the length than the previous books. And this is also going to be the one that has the most added on content from the Royal Road version, as I'm going to be introducing a bunch of short stories to just kind of fill in a certain time gap that just didn't have originally, just didn't have the mental energy to bother with. So I just I'm basically expanding upon the ending, hopefully making it a more satisfying conclusion. There's also a ton of art is being made. But yeah, working on that. Can't really say much else about that. But more importantly, I've also started producing. It's just basically me and my illustrator. There's the two of us that we're making our own graphic novel adaptation of it. Yeah, it's going to be very. I won't say very. The idea was to be somewhat reminiscent of Berserk, in the art style. It has the distinct, like darkness and heaviness to it. But obviously, there's a lot of stupid shit going on. Yeah, that's what we're working on. Again, not much I can really reveal at that point. Nothing's really set in stone. We do have a bunch of content prepared. I think we have a lot actually. We have like over 100 pages ready right now. We're just working out some things in regards to publishing and distribution, seeing what we can do there. But that's happening. The current plan is just to finish volume 1, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Well, Jeff, what about you? What are you working on?
Oh man, we're working on a ton of things. So obviously, Everybody Loves Large Chests, Volume 10. We're just about at the finish line with that. We're going to be submitting it to ACX on Monday, I believe. And I think that we actually are going to get the pre-order in event. So on, I believe, March 19th, the pre-order is going to go out. And so the actual release is going to be April 2nd. Really excited about this one. This is actually a shorter one, and we pulled back a little bit on production on this one because Jackson was gigantic and epic, and just the amount of production we put into that one was so intense that we needed to, scale back a little bit to, widen our margins a bit more. But I mean, it's just convenient because it was actually quite a shorter book than the last one. We are planning on starting Everybody Loves Large Chests Volume 11 probably in the next couple months. So our aim is to have that one out by the end of the year. And when that happens, we're debating a different release strategy for Volume 12. I'm not going to reveal that right now, but Volume 12, like Neven said, is going to be the absolute giganticest book in the series. So we really want to treat it special. And, it's a series we don't want to end, but at the same time, all things must end. And so if we're going to end it, then let's do it with a big bang. So we're going to treat this one real special. That's going to be releasing in 2025. So that's Everybody Loves Large Chests. Of course, I've been working on Dungeon Crawler Carl. That is up through book 6 now. We have the first audio immersion tunnel of that out on our platform, which is basically the cinematic audio version of it, but there's certain people who own certain rights to Dungeon Crawler Carl that don't want us to call it cinematic, so we had to change that. And then, so we are going to start the script conversion for season 2 very soon. We also have a cinematic audio version of a book called The Bones at Point No Point. This is by an author named D.D. Black, and it's actually kind of a by-the-numbers mystery thriller, and it's excellently well written. I've worked with this author before under a different pen name, A.C. Fuller, but Bones at Point No Point is incredibly successful on Kindle. It's already about to release its book 9. but we just sealed the deal with the author. This is just such a departure for us because this is going to be cinematic audio that's much more subtle. I would say Stars Have Eyes is more subtle as well than most of the things that we've done, but this is in no way fantastic. This is in no way sci-fi. It's based in Washington, in a little fishing town. There's murders. There's a detective who's supposed to be retired and he's too old for this shit. There's, a dead wife that he's pining for. There's a new love blooming. It's just very, like I said, by the numbers, very right to market and perfectly executed. So really looking forward to that one. We're even going to go and record ambiences live on location of all the local places. With we're gonna gear up and get some new field recording stuff and start experimenting with that, and we're going to be using Dolby Atmos as well. We're going to be using 3D sound. We're doing a lot of development as far as that's concerned, so that one I'm just super excited for. Hopefully we can release that by the end of the year. We also have some big titles coming at us from Aethon Books that they want in cinematic audio. Dungeon Lord 5 is coming.
Oh, it is finally, huh?
Finally coming. Yeah, I believe our last release, book 4, was December 31st of 2019. Yeah, it's been a while, and the author's comeback story is incredible. I can't wait to tell that someday.
Is this Hugo you're talking about?
Hugo Huesca, yes. He's been through a lot these past few years, and it's really cool how he came back. So, man, there's just so many things, and of course I'm all over the country this year at different events. I was here for Toronto Comic-Con. Next month I'm going to Jordan Con. I'll be at Dragon Con later this year, and maybe New York Comic Con. I still haven't decided on that one. Lots of cons. We'll have an event schedule on our website soon. But yeah, there's just so many things going on that I can't even remember it all.
Has the petition started yet for getting Meryl Streep as Carl's mom? Is that
not Carl's mom?
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, there's another character in mind.
Okay. All right.
We're currently I can't say too much about this, but we're currently in negotiations with Audible right now over that series. So we might be able to actually get Meryl Streep.
That's great.
We might actually be able to do it. And it'll be the funniest gag in all of Audible if we do. So
looking forward to that. Well, guys, tell us where we can find you. Jeff, you want to give us some links?
Yeah, I could, but I'm just going to give you one because it's the only one that really matters anymore. Soundbooththeater.com. There you can pick up our app. You can shop for all of our independent stuff. We also have all of our Audible titles listed there, but when you click on them, that'll just take you to the Audible page. But we have our own app. You can download it there. You can also get our subscribe to our newsletter there, and that way you can keep track of us and see what's coming up next.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us down this Litrpg deep dive. Please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts and visit us over at longwinded.one, where you can see past episodes and find all of our socials, even our new Discord server. We hope you enjoy.